I am going to be doing the watch commentary for The Phantom Menace, and that will be straight through, one take, watch through, making my comments as I watch. Today is July 30, 2025, and today is Wednesday, and I am going to be watching and doing a commentary on a watch and commentary on The Phantom Menace, Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCollum. Executive producer George Lucas. And going into this movie, I have seen it now probably, I would say at least 50 times. 50, at least, easily, maybe 100, maybe 400 or 500 times I've watched this movie. And this is the first time I'm going to watch it through at one take and just do a commentary on it as I watch, from my experience as growing up with, as having grown up with Star Wars beginning in 1977, when I first encountered Star Wars at the age of 10 in theaters in 1977. And this I never saw anything like this. Nobody had. And it was incredible. And it still remains to be one of the greatest spectacles, as well as feats and accomplishments of any human being ever on our planet. And that is by George Lucas, and that's Star Wars. And then, of course, the prequels came along in 1999, and they were the very same feeling to me. I loved them. And I took my kids to see the Star Wars when they had re-released them in the theaters with the special editions, and I took my kids to go see the prequels, and I continued to follow the stories and the comic books and some of the other books, and I've always been a fan of Star Wars, and I've always been interested in the lore, and I love the prequels. I'm just one of those people that loves the prequels. And that's how I decided on this name, Mr. The Prequels presents the prequels. And that's another story, except to say that I just love the prequels. I'm just one of those people that loves the prequels. And not everybody feels that way. And that's great, that's fine. And thank the maker. The maker is the person, the one that made this. I didn't make it, you didn't make it. The maker made it for his own good pleasure and shared it with all of us. And so that's how I'm approaching this. Thank the maker. And then now we can do whatever we want with it, tell our own stories, our own versions. And the maker has told us what is the actual version, and that is whatever's approved by the maker. And that would be, in terms of the movie canon, the movie canon, that would be Star Wars episodes 1 through 6, including the special editions on the original trilogy. And that would be Star Wars, and now it's called Star Wars A New Hope. And then it would be Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. And then Star Wars The Return of the Jedi, or Return of the Jedi. I don't remember if it's The Return of the Jedi or Return of the Jedi. But whatever it is, Return of the Jedi. Classic movie. And that everybody grew up with those movies, loved those movies. I did. I love those movies. I wanted to be Han Solo so bad. And there was never a cooler sidekick than Chewbacca. And then the cast of characters kept growing and growing and growing until finally, as far as I knew, and it ended up with just them and the Ewoks. I never had any problem with the Ewoks growing up. I still don't. It doesn't bother me at all. Any of the stuff with the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. And so not everybody feels that way. But the creator, through various steps and procedural challenges and hurdles that he had to get through to make the original trilogy. Then when he came along later and made the prequels, he had more power and more control over his own projects, over his own movies. And so you see now here, Rick McCallum is the producer on all three of these, and a great producer. And watch some of the behind the scenes footage, the making of footage, and you'll see just a brilliant partner to have on this project. And then of course, George Lucas, the creator, maker, and he is the writer and the director. And then on the second one, that would be Attack of the Clones, he had a co-writer, Jonathan Hales. And this person helped him write, I believe his last name is Jonathan Hales, and helped him write Attack the Clones. And of course, George Lucas came up with the story on all of these, I believe, is credited with. And he is the master storyteller, George Lucas is. And so when I saw the prequels, again, I'd never seen anything like that. Nobody had. Darth Maul came out, the double blade. Oh, by the way, when I do my commentary, there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So just get ready for spoilers. If you haven't seen the movies yet and you don't want any spoilers, this isn't the time for you. I've seen this movie maybe 300 or 400, 500, maybe 1,000 times. I mean, when it was first out in theaters, I might have seen it 5 times the first weekend it was out, maybe. And it's not because I didn't want to go and see it more. I, of course, was taking my kids, and that was very expensive, especially if you want to get popcorn and all that stuff. But yeah, they were great movies. I loved them. And my family, as always, seems to love George Lucas, loves Star Wars. And I would say that my entire family is a Star Wars family. We know Star Wars. We talk Star Wars. George Lucas is the everyday part of our everyday conversation in a positive way, and always thanking the maker, because George provided unto us this beautiful universe, this world that we live in, all of us, we share it. And then now in our time of the internet and all of this other business, and the way people talk to each other is just, what a shame. What a shame that people would want to do with this, what George provided for us. Such a beautiful story, such a beautiful world. And then people come along and they, for the good intentions, trash some work that somebody else did on it. Maybe they were trying to do a good job. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were trying to do something that was new and inventive and creative, and maybe you didn't like it. Maybe George didn't like it. But it doesn't matter. George signed the paper. The maker signed away his children to the, as you know, what the maker called these people. Well, he said, now I'm not saying this, but George said this. George Lucas said this. But look it up. And you'll see what he thinks of what he was doing when he signed that paper. Look it up. And I'll leave to you to decide. I will not speak for the maker will speak for himself. But in all seriousness, this isn't George Lucas's Star Wars, this new Star Wars. Post the prequel era in the filmmaking process, which was, as these movies were released, the prequels 1999 through 2004, I believe. I believe it was 2004 that the Revenge of the Sith came out. And this was the all-time greatest Star Wars movie ever in the history of Star Wars movies. In my opinion, Star Wars doesn't get any better than Revenge of the Sith. I mean, if you want gold standard Star Wars, that is Revenge of the Sith. Let's just take a look at that one just for a second. I haven't even started the commentary yet, the watch commentary on the Phantom Menace. Revenge of the Sith is an all-time classic. It starts with opening scene is the space battle, of course. Whereas Return of the Jedi, the ending scene was the space battle scene. And then, of course, in Empire Strikes Back, the opening big battle is on the ground. And then, of course, in Attack of the Clones, which is the second act of the prequel trilogy, which rhymes with the second act of the original trilogy, the ground battle is at the end of the movie. And they have a rhyming with Anakin's test, whereas Luke had his test in that dark cave where he sensed the dark side of the Force on Dagobah, where he was being trained by Yoda. And there's so much in these movies that's just, you can watch these movies. It's just like looking for a treasure. You can watch these movies over and over and over and over and over again and study these movies. And there's so much to see. And there's so much to learn about, from everything, from movies to how to make movies to how George Lucas thinks about a lot of stuff, to how to tell a story, just how to tell a really good story in a really good way. That's what these movies are about. It's, and that's, and I'm not here to trash talk any of these other movies made by anybody that is not George Lucas. But I will tell you this, and this is my opinion, and it is the truth. If there is no George Lucas involved, it's not real Star Wars. Now, I'm going to say that again, but this time I'm going to say it like this. There has been no awakening. Yeah, there's been no awakening. You know it, and I know it. There's literally been no awakening. No, there's been no awakening. No, there has been no awakening. There's not been any awakening. No. This is not an awakening of anything except, I'll just leave it at that. There's been no awakening. You know it, and I know it. Without the maker, once you get rid of the maker, it's not even real anymore, any longer real. And this is what you'll see in the books. So if you want to read the books, you can learn more about what I actually think about all of this as I reveal the secrets of the prequels and tell my opinion on what these movies actually mean and why and how. Not only why and how the prequels are perfect. Perfect. They're better than the original trilogy. The prequels are just flat out better than the original trilogy. And that's not to say anything negative about the original trilogy. The original trilogy is awesome. And the prequels are even better. And the prequels make the original trilogy even more awesome. And with every Lucas-approved next expansion of the universe has always come greater and greater improvement. And I'm pretty sure we would all agree that there has been no awakening. Yeah, and I'll just leave it at that. There has been no awakening. And so the prequels, as compared to the new, I shall call them, movies that were not made by George Lucas. And we all know there's been no awakening. But somebody might have been trying to do something creative, and I'm not going to take that away from them, whoever they may be. It may have been a lot of people, but it wasn't George Lucas. And the bottom line for a lot of people that make these movies is not to tell a story, and not the best way to tell that story, but to sell a product, and to make a product and make a customer look the same. And that's just sad. And now I will get a little more serious. When I say there's been no awakening, yeah, there's been no awakening. There's been an awakening, all right, to the money that they can make by cheapening a product, turning Star Wars, a beautiful story about families, into, it's not even a video game. It's not even a juice box. It would be okay if it was Smarties. It's just bad. It's just a bad product on any level, let alone it's not Star Wars. Star Wars is not a product. Yeah, you can buy it over the counter, but Star Wars is not a product. That's just the way it is. And that's what is missing. If you have no heart, the heart of the creator, you've just left with the product on the shelf. And that's not going to keep people around very long if you're looking at it that way. The reason George could keep people around, and still does keep people around, and you see he was recently at the museum, or to discuss the opening of his museum at the Comic-Con in San Diego. It's the first time ever he's been to Comic-Con. He's not a loudmouth. He's not out there trying to get attention for himself, and all of these stories that went around talking about how he didn't care about his movies and he forgot how to make movies, and you look, that's just trash. All of that is just trash. I've seen all of these movies. I've seen all of the Star Wars movies a lot of times, more than once, just as a regular consumer that loves it. I'll talk about Star Wars, read Star Wars, listen to Star Wars, look at Star Wars, act like Star Wars. I've been doing this since I was age 10. Since age 10, 1977. So you do all the math if you want to. And then you make your choice. Do you want real Star Wars? Or do you want a product that's not even real? It's a fake product based on something that was not even real in the beginning. Because these people don't even know what Star Wars is. They wouldn't know a story. One story from any of these characters in Star Wars. They wouldn't even understand it. Just look at Christopher Lee, the guy that played Count Dooku. Now, before we begin, this I will say first about Christopher Lee. He said, I saw a video clip of him saying that when he was reading the script and doing research for his character as to how he would play his character, Count Dooku, this character was introduced, of course, in Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2, which is a really good movie, but it does feel long in a lot of places. And I'll talk about that on the next commentary, but tonight's The Phantom Menace. But, so he said, as Christopher Lee said about his Count Dooku character, there were pages and pages and pages of history on this character, on my character, and who I was, and my family history, and my political leanings, and blah, blah, blah. Of course, Christopher Lee didn't say and blah, blah, blah. But the point is, he said, oh, there's so much there. It's quite to the point of George Lucas having an imagination and being such a visionary writer and thinker. And in the way he approaches the screen, making the screen, the art of film for screen. So what I will do is in the links to this video, I will put the videos that I have used primarily as my primary sources to help me be able to communicate some of the thoughts that I have on the prequels. And these people, these channels, they have done the work, man. They've done the research. I don't know the names of all of these, so I'm not going to try to list them here, but you'll see them. But you will see them in the comments, or rather in the description section, along with a link to at least one video or to their home channel. Because without these researchers and channels and people on the internet, people having this conversation on the internet, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing on the internet, which is talk about what I'm about to talk about in a way that is intelligent and that has numbers and research-based facts to go along with what I'm saying as far as interest, and to verify in case there are any people out there that just for whatever reason, they just want to hate on George Lucas for no reason because they heard it on the internet. And that's not true. You need to see what's the truth is, and you need to see what's out there. And there's no other source for real Star Wars, the best Star Wars, than George Lucas. And that's just a fact. Look it up. And all of these other people that do their so-called reviews online, these channels, they get clicks from trash talk. And that's all they do is talk trash. That's all they do is they get paid clicks for trash. And the only person that I will say does not get on my nerves is Rich from Red Letter Media. He's the only one. He gets a pass on all of this because I truly believe he is funny, number one. Him dressing up as George Lucas at Comic-Con's a classic. That one, nobody's going to ever surpass that. That cannot be surpassed. But he has a great laugh, and he's just likable. He comes across as much more likable. But yeah, Red Letter Media, trash. It's garbage. I do enjoy watching them talk about movies because it's funny, but I don't like how they trash George Lucas. I didn't like it then. I don't like it now. And I really don't like that. No, I just don't like it. I didn't like it then and I don't like it now. But I do like Rich. And then whatever else these people are doing. And then they all, but just watch some of the videos that I have watched. And you will see why I'm saying what I am saying the way I'm saying it. I will only say this now, finally. Revenge of the Sith, that is the greatest Star Wars ever made. The most, if you want to see it, Star Wars, that's Revenge of the Sith. That is it right there. That is not overselling when you have the title Star Wars in Revenge of the Sith. If anything, you're underselling somewhat. Revenge of the Sith, wow. That is like, where would you even begin with making the trailer for that one? Okay. And then, of course, Attack the Clones, which is I think it's one of my favorites, but it's also one that I could get up and go use the bathroom or make a sandwich or do something for a minute and miss part of it. Maybe if I was listening to it. It's not, it's something about it. There's some parts in it that I don't feel like I have to look at. So maybe there was a lot put in there from my point of view. Again, I'm not the creator. I'm not the one that made the movie. But as an audience member, as a person that was watching the movie, one of the things that I often feel in this movie while I'm watching it is, boy, this is a long movie. But it's really not. And it's a really a good movie, and it's got a lot of good stuff in it. And it's just one of my favorite Star Wars movies, Attack of the Clones. But it is, as I just said, sometimes as an audience member that's watching a movie, I might feel in a way that seems to contradict what I just said about it. But that is what it is. Okay. Now, and also Rich, still unhateable. Okay, and then finally, The Phantom Menace. Yeah, no, go back to Attack of the Clones. There's a lot of dark themes, heavy-duty themes in Attack of the Clones, man. I mean, again, this is not a spoiler-free zone, so you're going to have all kinds of spoilers in everything I'm saying here. I can hear every word you're saying. Harold and Kumar, it's a classic. So, but Attack of the Clones, think about it. Anakin decapitates those sand people. He kills the women, the kids, all the sand people, the men, the women, and the kids. The kids. I mean, and this is the decapitation that's shown on screen right before the screen transition takes it away. You see the head come off of that sand person guard. It's brutal. It is Anakin turning to the dark side, and then he comes back to Tatooine, and he's looking to try to find some solace, and he can't. He's trying to bring it all together with the conflict that he has with wanting to be a Jedi and wanting to be more, and being felt like that he's being held back, and then he just committed this horrible murder. He killed all these people out of seeking revenge for his mom, and it reminded me of Luke in the workshop where, of course, his Uncle Owen lived in that house and owned that property. I suppose you could say owned that property, and that was Luke's room where he went to go and work on all the stuff that he wanted to work on and needed to work on, and that's where he was talking to the droids about my Uncle Owen, blah blah blah, and then he meets the princess via hologram. And now here I'm not going to comment on that movie anymore, but that's the idea. So I saw some rhyming in that. I saw some rhyming in, of course, New Hope, Luke, and Attack of the Clones, Anakin Skywalker. And a lot of that will be reviewed in further commentary as I get to that one. But finally, to The Phantom Menace. This is the most George Lucas Star Wars ever made, in my opinion. In my opinion, The Phantom Menace is, well, I don't think it's, like, if you want to put it on the greatest Star Wars movie ever, no, that's Revenge of the Sith. But if you want to say this is the most purest Star Wars made for 12-year-olds, this is it. I mean, this is it right here. This movie's made for, I would say, 10 to 12-year-olds. And I think that this is the one where, like, it goes a little heavier duty in Attack of the Clones. That's not so much made for little kids. But I think that this is the movie that George was able to make for 12-year-olds. That's how I think about this movie. As I go into it now to do my watch commentary, I think that George Lucas looked at The Phantom Menace as, this is the one I'm going to make, the real Star Wars that I want to make. It's for 12-year-olds. And this is what people don't get. And this is why Jar Jar is the key. Because it's a movie for 12-year-olds. Or 10-year-olds. I would think 10-year-olds in our time. George is thinking on another era. But I think 12-year-olds. There are some serious themes in these movies that are made accessible to a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, in my opinion. Such as, again, this is not spoiler-free, such as the end battle with the Gungans versus the droid army. And they say right before the battle, in this course of this, it may happen that many Gungans, it's a possibility that many Gungans may die. It is a possibility that many Gungans will die or may die. And this is a serious idea that George is trying to get across to kids and to adults. And that is, there is a consequence to war, and there's a price to war, and there's a way to think about it. And then, of course, Boss Nass, who's the leader of the Gungans, or the Gungans, says, we are ready to do our part. Wow, beautiful, beautiful dialogue. And also, what a wonderful, beautiful lesson of value of friendship and alliances for friends, for kids to access and be able to read this and hear this and see this. It's a beautiful movie. It's wonderfully thought out. I will add, it's beautifully made. It's one of the weirdest movies ever because it jerks you all over the place. It's like watching an episode of Flash Gordon. The stuff I grew up with. I'd watch the stuff on television, black and white, referenced in Looney Tunes. The Phantom Menace is like watching an episode of Flash Gordon. Oh, which, by the way, the 80s Flash Gordon was really good, but I don't remember that actor's name. I think it's Sam Jones. Possibly. But at any rate, I don't know if it's Sam Jones or Sam Jones III, but whatever it is, Sam Jones, Flash Gordon. Great movie. But Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, feels like one of those old-time Republic serials that George is always referring to. And the cast of characters is strong, the story is strong, the stakes are strong, high, the emotions, the tension is all there, the writing, the dialogue, the script, the camera, the lights, the action. Everything fits. It works perfectly in this movie. It might be one of the greatest movies ever made, possibly. I'm not going to even pull that as a pulled punch. I'm going to say it again. This might be one of the greatest movies ever made. The Phantom Menace deserves some kind of an award on some level. I don't know what it is, but it needs something. It deserves something. Because The Phantom Menace is one of the greatest movies ever made. And I'm about to watch it, and I'm about to do a watch commentary on The Phantom Menace. Star Wars, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Written and directed by George Lucas. Producer Rick McCollum. Executive producer George Lucas. And that's all I have to say about that. Next, you will be hearing me, and maybe you'll be watching the movie along with me while you listen to my commentary on the link in the description to the next video, which will be in the description. And then, of course, the other links provided will be those that are to the channels that I am referencing and will be referencing throughout my own commentary, because these did the heavy lifting on the research, found the numbers, the facts, have the video footage, the recordings, pointed out the books. These are some of the people who are interviewed. J.W. Rensler. These are videotaped recordings, and we're lucky that we have them. So these, kudos to these people, hats off to these people for doing the work and assembling the material here, bringing it all together. So all I got to do is watch one video or two videos, and I can learn a lot of stuff related to George Lucas and related to the prequels and related to a lot of stuff that I'm interested in. But mainly right now, it's related to George Lucas and the prequels. And the prequels are good for this because of the way that he writes. So I'll be looking at that as well. And again, this is a full of spoilers commentary. So if you have not yet seen Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, do not watch or listen to my commentary, as this commentary provides all manner of spoiler. There are spoilers throughout my commentary that you will not want spoilers when you watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because you need to watch these movies in order. Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, Episode 4, Episode 5, Episode 6. And that's how you need to watch these movies, according to the maker. And I have watched these movies in that order, and that is the way you need to watch these movies, in my opinion. Star Wars, Episode 1, Episode 2, Episode 3, Episode 4, Episode 5, Episode 6. Watch them in that order. And if you don't want any spoilers, as this is a dramatic story, and maybe you don't want to know what happens in the next chapter, then don't watch my commentary, because this is full of spoilers. Because I've seen this movie 500, maybe 1,000 times. I'm talking about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I've seen this movie maybe 500, maybe 1,000 times. And I'm going to do a watch commentary on it, and there's going to be spoilers. And I'm not an expert in movie making, and I'm not an expert in Star Wars. I just love the prequels. And I'm a regular guy, like most of you people. I'm a regular person, and I just love Star Wars, and I just love George Lucas. And of course, if you want to see what I really think about all of this, you can get my books. You can see my books. These are books that explain everything you want to know about the prequels, where I explain the secrets of the prequels. I explain and show why and how the prequels are perfect, and why and how Jar Jar Binks is the key. Look, Jar Jar is the key to this whole thing. And this whole thing is made by the maker, George Lucas. And he made this for 12-year-olds. The Phantom Menace, he made this movie for 12-year-olds. And then he wants to introduce these kids, if you will, to certain concepts in our world, certain realities, such as you're going to grow up and you're going to, and look, you can see all these interviews online to the links I'll be providing. But he says, the creator says, George says, and you want these kids to, you want to introduce these kids to certain ideas, such as, friendship, value of loyalty, personal loyalty, caring for those that you love, standing up for what's right. But then also you're going to be introduced to some other things that's not going to be too nice, such as war, people killing each other, and so on and so forth. And he presents these in ways so that kids can have access to this and learn about it while not being traumatized by seeing Saving Private Ryan. But they can see the Gungans battle the Federation droid army and see that, hey, look at this. Not only did he say there is a possibility that many Gungans may die, but we also see that many Gungans did die and are dying and are dead. And this is reality, and if you watch the movie, you'll see it. And this is on purpose, and every decision George makes in this movie is on purpose. It's a great movie. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. It's not the greatest Star Wars movie ever made. But Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is, I believe, the most George Lucas closest to his heart ever made. That, in the sense of, it is the one that he really wanted to make for 12-year-olds. That's what I think. It's so much like A New Hope in many ways. And look, don't even get me started on casting. Ahmed Best as Jar Jar Binks. Jake Lloyd as Anakin Skywalker. Natalie Portman as Queen Amidala, Padme Amidala. So many other actors. Ian McDermott as Senator Palpatine, and so on. Of course, C-3PO, played by Sir Anthony Daniels, and then R2-D2, played by Kenny Baker. And then the green screens they used, and the miniatures, and the puppeteers, and the robotics, live actors, people in suits, CGI. It's a masterpiece. It is one of the greatest movies ever made. It needs to be studied for years and years to come on how to make a movie, on what is possible, and how to tell a story, and how to write a story, and what is a good story. And that's Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So, yeah, go ahead and we'll click on this, all the links and all that stuff. Watch this video as you just did. And then if you want to watch the commentary on Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with spoilers, then click on the next link, and I will see you then. Bye-bye. With special thanks to the following YouTube channels: Anomaly Inc., So Uncivilized, Co-Extra, Honeycut Videos, Peach Doors.